Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Agency Platform VIP bi-weekly webinar series. If you don't mind, if you can give me a mic check, let me know if you can hear me okay and see my screen okay. If you can locate the chat box that should be on your webinar interface. Thanks, Dave. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Lola. Awesome. So just as a pulse check, do we have anyone on the webinar today that is brand new? You've never been on one of our webinars and listened to me ramble before. Maybe you're a new sign up, maybe you're on the free trial, not sure. Okay, well, welcome aboard, Dave. And good to see some old familiar faces on here as well. So we're going to be talking about target markets today. Originally, we were scheduled to talk about the new pricing document, but I'm going to wait until probably next webinar to go over that in more detail. It's going to be a bit hefty, and we've been talking about pricing a lot, so it's probably going to be a nice break. So on the target market, if I want to take a poll from all of you to see, have you ever thought about a particular target market for your marketing agency? Usually, whenever agencies evaluate how you're going to go about your sales strategy, you need to figure out who you're going to sell to, right? Now, it's pretty rare that I run into someone that their majority of their target market is not a traditional local business of some sort, or all local businesses. However, there's a lot of talk about, should you go into a particular niche? In other words, should you focus on one particular business category? Should you be local specifically? Should you be national? So if anyone's willing to give a shout out about what is your target market? Are you going after a particular niche? Are you local? Good to see you on, Casey. How are you doing? Casey is targeting the natural herbs industry, very profitable industry. Awesome. Anyone else? Anyone going after cosmetic surgeons, plumbers, anything unique? I trying to think of the most unique target market I've ever heard of that was real specific, that did well. I knew an agency one time that had 40 recurring marketing campaigns. He had himself and just one project manager, and they were all the preschools. Preschools, big money in preschools. Hey, Joe, good to see you on. Joe's going after contractors. Okay, could be a bit competitive. Interesting. Awesome. Well, for the rest of you that are on the line, while you're typing in your response to either, and again, it could just give me a response, even if it's something that you're thinking about going after, because then I'll talk about it. But if not, I won't. So let me know what are you thinking about for your target market, and I will address that. And if there's anyone that would like to come on the line today to speak about your target market, why you chose it, feel free to raise your hand, give me a shout out. I can activate your microphone. I would also like to announce I have on the line with me today a gentleman by the name of Justin, who has a lot of experience consulting marketing agencies, and of course is also with Agency Platform. If everyone can say hello to Justin C. There's actually two Justins here. Justin C, would you like to say hello?
Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Really looking forward to this discussion, and I think Paul will have a lot of things to discuss when it comes to different target niche, especially for those guys who are yet starting to do the online marketing company. So looking forward to hear from your comments as well. So feel free to chat me or chat us on here so that we can be able to respond to your questions as well.
Awesome, thanks, Justin. So oftentimes, particularly whenever marketing agencies are in startup phase, they think that you got to figure out a target market right away to go after. And it can get confusing what to go after. I know other agencies who rotate through different niches, sometimes quarterly, sometimes monthly, but they're not dedicated to one particular niche, but they angle their marketing campaigns towards different niches at a time. Okay, so to wrap up the feedback, we've got Kendall targeting medical and health care. And we've got Catherine going after dentists, surgeons, and medical spas. Catherine, yes, that is interesting, and good to see you back on today, Catherine. And Catherine, as always, it'd be great to have you on if you'd like to talk about why you arrived at that niche and how. So I'm going to go over a couple of articles, but I'm wanting to open this up in more of a open forum type of a manner, and I'm going to share with you some articles. And Justin, it's okay. We'll figure that one out for next time. This is not a bad one. Going over the 10 hot niches for SMMA clients in 2018. Certainly not the most comprehensive, but a lot of people target real estate. But one of the things I want to point out about going after a particular niche is it's going to be important to make sure that you have a way to get through to a decision maker. Some people that choose a particular niche choose that niche because every conversion that they have or paying client could be worth a lot of money. For example, maybe in the auto industry, for a new car dealer, they sell one new car and they make thousands of dollars. So if you could just bring them one conversion a month, it would justify them paying you thousands a month, right? And similarly, this is the reason why contractors and home builders is a really big niche to target, because, well, if they convert one client and that client happens to pay them to build a new home, they're going to make a whole lot of money. Maybe if you bring them one custom home build a year, it would justify them paying you $30,000 a year. So that's what's attractive, but the drawback is, how hard is it to get through to a decision maker? The automotive industry is notorious for being difficult to get through to a decision maker. Is anyone on here right now target automotive or ever had an automotive client? New car dealers particularly, it's very difficult to land a client in automotive. Now, in regards to the health industry, this is probably one of the more popular industries that I see people going after. And Catherine, you chose to go after the medical industry. You said, track this back down, dentist, surgeons, and medical spas. Curious why you arrived to target that industry. Of course, whenever you go into a particular niche, what are the benefits? Well, you're more specialized to them. And you have to keep in mind that when you offer a marketing service to a client, they don't understand all the technical intricacies to how SEO or paid advertising works, and a lot of them do not want to know. Therefore, they're not aware, they're not going to be aware that one SEO package could apply to universally to a dentist or a chiropractor or a plumber or a home contractor. Does that make sense to you guys? So if you model at least your marketing effort towards a particular niche at a time and say that you offer specific marketing services in the format of X, Y, and Z, SEO, paid advertising, web design, whatever else, they do not necessarily differentiate and know that you're just marketing to them and these are not services that are specific to that niche. Point being, if they're going to get approached by a general marketing agency that isn't custom tailoring their message specifically to dentists, for example, you're going to come across as the specialist, whether it's because of the terminology that you're using, or maybe you've chosen to target particularly that vertical. Justin, you've consulted quite a bit of agencies that are target a particular niche, and I can personally speak to say, and this is something you guys should really pay attention to, and the agencies that I have seen that had the most explosive growth, that were an agency profiled by 3 or less employees that built up to multiple 7 figures. I would say 90% of the ones that I have seen accomplish that growth rate in less than 3 years, 90% of those all were focused specifically in one niche. And that might be surprising, but Justin, maybe you can talk a little bit about, you've consulted a lot of companies that went from startup to seven figures that specialized in a niche. What made their growth so explosive?
Well, I think Paul, is that the kind, as you said, the kind of specialization that they put in. And I think what's really smart about these agencies when they focus on specific niche is that especially for, let's say, for dentists, they go to a dentist network or a dentist seminars where they be able to get a network of all the dentists within specific region. And I think that's really smart when it comes to, you know, looking for potential clients, and just to be able to talk to a lot of dentists in just one setting, so you don't really have to spread your especially that you're thin when it comes to human resources, so you really need to be smart about where you're going to allocate most of your time and energy. So by focusing on a specific niche, that means your research and then getting all the managing all your leads, putting them in one place, it would really help to actually have a one niche to target, especially again for those who are just starting. So I think also again talking again about the lack of resources, especially for startup agencies. So when they're gonna do look for clients, so the what they dive into is that they kind of come up with a short list of, let's say, 5 to 10 markets or industries, and then from there they'll be able to assess on which among those industries are prominent within their nearby cities or area. And then from there you they already conducted again on how much these agency or these industries are willing to spend when it comes to uh, market or digital marketing campaigns. Uh, so I, as per my experience, the agencies that actually went from zero to again skyrocketed their revenue in a year are those focused on dentists and contractors. It's really difficult when it comes to lawyers because of, again, they're very anal when it comes to content. So there's a lack there's a lot of back and forth things. So for those people, for those agencies or who are planning to go after lawyers, the problem would be more on the project management side, because they're gonna read through all your content before it gets published. And but again, the when it comes to SEO, you need to have content on your site for you to be able to evaluate and get have higher chances in ranking Google. So another industries that you might willing to consider are those uh, 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 real estate agents. I think that they're very they spent a lot in terms of marketing campaigns, considering it's a cutthroat industry. So I think, and also they're very easy to deal with. Because
Yeah, well,
probably
and
most of the
to
time.
interject there, with real estate agents, sometimes there's a barrier, right, with who they're working for. But uh, to go back to the attorney's comment, well, usually the upside to attorneys are that they'll pay a lot more, right? But of course, dealing with content can be difficult.
Right, right.
But to revisit the topic matter, and I'll review a larger list here of possible niches. But what I want to talk about is why it's at, what are the advantages to targeting a particular niche, and what are the characteristics involved with specifically sales to a niche that could increase your growth potentially 100-fold. So this is the primary thing about targeting a niche that could make you explosive. So pay close attention to what I'm about ready to say. What if you could tap into someone else that has a list of, let's say, 10,000 businesses in a particular niche within the country you want to target, let's say United States, for example, and there is a business that happens to be already sending a catalog out to 10,000 of those businesses you want to target in North America. And what if they were not in competition with you because they don't offer marketing? And what if you could formulate a strategic partnership with them that would benefit them, it benefits you, and if you get that endorsement, that's your largest step you're going to take before, if you have an exit strategy in place and you want to retire. And that is what I've seen happen for the companies that exploded. So how would this work? So let me walk you through the logic on this. This is exactly what I have seen happen with the companies that went from small to multiple seven figures the fastest. Let's say you take an agency that started out, and let's say they were offering marketing to pest control companies, for example. So they start targeting pest control companies. They pick up one client, two clients, and maybe whenever they started out, they were not even specializing in pest control companies, but they had one here, then they picked up another one, then they picked up another one, then maybe they got a pest control company as a client that happened to be part of a franchise, and then they got another one in that franchise. And sometimes this is how marketing agencies stumble into a particular niche, because they gravitated towards it and they had a couple and they decided to go into that. That's common. And then they built a website focusing particularly on pest control marketing. And then they started specializing in it. And what do I mean by specializing? Well, you can use the same services from agency platform, but your terminology, your sales pitch is going to differentiate, understanding how to close leads. But also what should change down the line, if you're going to really focus on a niche, is going to be your just diversification on services that you're going to be able to offer to that niche. So what would that mean? Well, maybe they have a unique CRM system or business management system that applies to that particular niche that you could also consult on and offer to deepen your relationship with that particular niche. Maybe you have, because you've ran a paid advertising campaign before for that particular niche, do you think there's going to be any similarities from one paid advertising campaign for, let's say, a pest control company in Little Rock, Arkansas, to a pest control company that happens to be in, Kansas City? Absolutely. And what would be similar? The keywords, the ad copy, the graphics, what converts, what doesn't convert. And that's going to be very similar from paid advertising campaign to paid advertising campaign. So now you're going to be able to start recognizing, okay, well, this is what works. This is on average how much it's going to cost to get a click. This is the type of graphic design or ad copy that's working. And then how does that transition to other things that would be similar from one company to another that's in the same niche? Well, what about landing pages? Wouldn't it be cool if you created one landing page and you could just modify it and use it for every client? That'd be nice. If you happen to, on the side, want to pick up a CRM system and make templated drip email campaigns, would they not be the same for every company within the niche? Very similar. And the same goes for example, SEO even. Now, it's not that they would target the exact same keywords, but roughly speaking, you're going to target roughly the same keywords, only it's going to be for a different city. Does that make sense? And then how about your proposal templates that you could put a tremendous amount of time and energy into, that you want terminology and some graphics that are going to represent your client? Well, if all your different leads you're going after are in the same niche, you can use the same, glorified, beautified proposal template. And over time, what happens is when you get one successful client and they leave you a testimonial, they leave you a case study, you get their nice happy face on a video saying to the world that you are awesome and you grew their pest control company by X amount of leads over time, and you stick that bad boy on your homepage, and now you've got a website that's all about pest control digital marketing, and you throw in some facts in there about the industry and X, Y, and Z. Now that you have that built out, now that you have that understanding for that particular niche about digital marketing, what do you think your odds are going to be if you go and hit up you cold hit up another pest control company, whether it's through a phone call or an email, and they do visit your website, and they see that testimonial from the other pest control company. They see your accomplishments for other pest control company. They see that you specialize in everything pest control. All your terminology is there. What do you think your probability odds are of that particular cold lead being interested in speaking to you versus getting a cold lead from having a generic digital marketing agency website that just offers digital marketing to anyone, and let's say you got a plumber to land on your site and you have a testimonial on there coming from a real estate agent. Now, what are your odds are of that plumber being interested? Now, I don't know the stats behind this, guys, but I can tell you one thing from experience, it's a lot higher whenever you're specialized. You don't have to gear your entire company towards a particular niche. But if you have listened to enough digital marketing coaches that are out there, you'll come to find that they're very adamant about trying out different niches until you find one to stick with. Now, I tell people, look, if you're really into local lead generation, you're into Chamber of Commerce, you're into BNI, right? You're into networking, you're really into your local community, you love it, you enjoy it, you love being a local digital marketing agency and being able to service any business of any kind in your local community. I would say, of course, you would never want to specialize in a particular niche, but you can still set up different landing pages towards a particular niche and target those with your marketing and outreach campaigns. And maybe you target one particular niche with that effort for a month or a quarter, if that makes sense. So once you're in a niche, if you end up going into a niche, at what point in time would you be able to potentially formulate a strategic partnership that could be explosive? And by explosive, I mean turning you from a marketing agency within 1 year that literally is doing 100,000 a year in revenue to $1 million a year in revenue. What could do that for you that would require you to make no marketing effort to go out there and get more leads and just process leads? And a strategic partnership will do that, and I've seen it happen, and I've only ever seen that happen in a niche. So with the pest control, for example, here's usually how it works that I've ever seen. An agency sets up a pest control specific website, puts the brand up. 1 year later, you've got 5 to 10 pest control clients. You've built up your case studies. You've built up your marketing materials. You've learned the industry very well. You should have pulled on either some software offers or consulting that you offer in addition that's specific to that niche. And now comes next month, and maybe there's a pest control convention in, of course, none other than usually Las Vegas, Nevada. And you get on a plane and you fly out there to Vegas and you network and you talk to those people that have product catalogs that are selling to pest control companies products. Why? Because they're sending out their catalogs to every single pest control company in North America for the most part, really. And what if the companies that bought products for them were able to grow their business? Would that or would that not produce more product sales? Let me say that one more time, because there needs to be a logic on why a strategic partnership works. If you're able to network with someone that is selling products to pest control companies, would it increase their business if they were able to endorse a good marketing provider to these pest control companies, and the pest control companies as a result grow? Are they going to sell more products? Yes, they are going to sell more products. Now, on the other flip side to that, it would bring them more attention, because not only can they sell pest control products, but maybe they can also talk a little bit about how to grow your agency. So these are the relationships that I have seen formulated literally over cocktails at a conference, just like that. And then there's usually some rev share involved. Usually, not all the time, but usually there's some rev share involved. And it doesn't mean that you have to take less profit, but maybe you need to increase your pricing by 25% because you're going to start giving away 25%. And this is one of the only ways I've ever seen a company that's small go from 100,000 in revenue a year to $1 million in revenue a year, was to solidify that sort of a strategic partnership. Justin, you brought up the dental niche. Catherine, you're in the dental niche. I know an agency I used to help run the back end for, who had around, I gotta say, over 100 dentists and SEO, and they paid him very good money. He didn't have to find any of them. They all came to him. And how? Well, he flew to Vegas to the ongoing education. Pretty much it's a dentists have a party in Vegas once a year for their ongoing education. So why not party and learn and get your additional education credits at the same time? Because it's mandatory. And so they gather, and as one of the presenters, he was able to network in and get plugged to present a part of what's called Dental Town Magazine. And as a result of that relationship, he was able to network with Dental Town Magazine and get his ads in Dental Town Magazine and formulate riff share with them. From that point forward, he did not have to find any leads on his own. He was simply processing business. And that is one of the magical things that can happen with being in a niche, but you got to get pretty deep in the niche. And then you got to seek out those strategic partnerships. There's a lot of other industries that ride off of strategic partnerships alone, and they flourish off of it. So why reinvent the wheel if it's already there? Why pave the path and slave over lead generation day after day if you could build up a strategic partnership that already has the entire list but does not compete with you? So that is the benefit of niche marketing. It's not for everyone. However, it does open up a lot of doors. And the deeper you get into a niche and the more you study the niche, the more you realize who are the players, how are they connected, who are the influencers, who has the list of the entire industry, how could you possibly approach them, how could you get a partnership or a strategic partnership. And then you start opening those doors and it gets really interesting. If it were me, what kind of niche would I choose? What I call a micro niche. And Catherine, I know you go after the medical. That's really, hey, Vince, good to see you on, man. That's really competitive. If it were me, and maybe just because I'm a bit narcissistic, if you will, I would want to dominate a niche, own a niche, make sure that I am the best person in that niche, and anyone that ever approaches any of my clients or anyone I talk to will never stand next to me or compete with me because I own this niche. And if you have clients in my niche, I'm going to take them from you. That's my mentality, right? I happen to be that way. So if you want to be able to do that, I would highly recommend that you target what's called a micro niche. And what's a micro niche? It's a niche you probably never thought about targeting, right? So let's go. If you can see my screen here, it says here's a list of 122 profitable niches. Can you guys see this? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to go through this, and as I'm scrolling through it, feel free to give a shout out to any of these that you think would be worth going after, and I'm going to comment on these niches that I think are worth targeting. And some of you should really pay attention to this because I know intimately niches from how hard the sales are to how much does it convert to the people that target niches, how many campaigns are they able to bring on. We deal with marketing agencies full time. So you really have an inside scoop here, and that's why we're meeting. So let's take a look at this, automotive. Now, the thing about automotive is if you have a background in automotive and you want to sell to automotive, it's big money. New car dealers, easy, $5,000 a month. And then you have your car dealers that have multiple dealerships. We had an agency that closed an automotive network in one city, and I believe it was 7 or 8 dealerships, 1.2 million a year retail on that campaign. I won't tell you what they were paying wholesale, but I can tell you one thing: they made a lot of money. And so that the difference is that that's difficult, right? Car dealers can be very difficult, but it's big money if you can get into it. Now, I do want to point something out. Yes, Gabriel, doing SEO and only SEO. Now, something that I want to point out, though, there's a reason why automotive is something that is really easy for SEO if you're able to get a client and retain a client. Can anyone guess why showing #1 page 1 rankings for auto dealers is easy, a cakewalk. You could probably, well, it's not just a cakewalk, but I've studied the big players in the auto industry, and I'm just going to show you something. Let's just type in Mitsubishi dealer, Denver, Colorado, for example. Okay. So the way that the big companies do it that target auto dealers, for example, if they pick up a Mitsubishi dealer that happens to be located in Denver, what do you think their target keywords are going to be? How about Mitsubishi dealer, Denver, right? New Mitsubishi cars, Denver. And Mitsubishi dealer, or the Mitsubishi term, is going to be in almost every keyword. Okay, so what am I alluding to on why SEO for auto dealers is easy? How many Mitsubishi dealers do you think are in Denver? And Denver's a big city. What about smaller cities? Less than 10. So what are the odds of getting them on page 1? I don't know. I mean, approaching 100% odds. So to get a Mitsubishi dealer on page 1 for Mitsubishi dealer keywords when there's only maybe 3 Mitsubishi dealers in Denver, how hard is that going to be? And this is how the big giants that specialize in automotive mop the floor. They have everyone on page 1 for all of their Mitsubishi or whatever specific brand they sell keywords, because there's not enough automotive dealers that are new dealers for that particular brand to give competition to page 1. Anyhow, don't get me started on automotive. I could talk forever. So that's the upside to automotive. Any questions on automotive? In terms of the particular niches of automotive, for example, window tinting is the only one that I can point out that could be a micro niche, which would be window tinting. Here's the problem with window tinting as a micro niche. I don't think they're going to have a very big budget. So the ideal niche is going to have a larger lead acquisition value to them, and preferably, you know, either the one-time lead acquisition value is high because maybe, and by one time, what do I mean by one-time lead acquisition value? I mean that lead that they acquire, if it converts, that they make usually a one-time payment. For example, someone that buys a custom home. Well, usually they're going to buy one, right? They're not going to buy one a year, so it's not a reoccurring transaction that happens. So if it's a target market that you're going to go after, that the person that is the lead converts and makes a payment, it's a one-time payment. You want that one-time payment to have a lot of value to that client, because you'll have to bring them less leads to justify how much they're paying you for marketing. Does that make sense? So what should that be worth? Well, for me, at least $500 profit, I would hope. Bare minimum 250, but at least 500 and up is what I would be hoping for. Now, if it's a reoccurring profile where someone, for example, a dentist, well, if they acquire a new client and it's a dentist, and that person comes in once a year, you would project the profit that they're going to make off of that one client for the average client life duration, which may be that their average client life retention maybe it's 3-4 years. So you would multiply how much they would make in 1 year by 3 to 4 and call that a lead acquisition value. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So now on the home contractor space, this one is really popular to go after. And I'm not 100% sure why, other than it's broad. There's a lot that you can target. And I think one of the reasons why this is very popular to go after is because the ease of access to a decision maker. Again, unless you're in a micro niche in automotive like window tinting, getting through to a decision maker is going to be a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Home construction services, getting through to a decision maker could be as easy as calling their phone number and the owner answers the phone. So I think a lot of people gravitate towards construction and home services because of the ease of getting a hold of a decision maker. Has anyone targeted a the home construction services before? Catherine has. Catherine, are you interested in talking about that? I could enable your mic. Figure out how. Okay, Catherine, give me one moment to figure this out again. Okay, Catherine, I think your mic is hot.
Oh, hi there.
Hi, Catherine. So
Hi.
you've targeted a lot of different niches, is this right?
Well, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've moved around a little. But yeah, I have a background in interior design. I got my degree in that and worked for many years in that area. So it was a niche that I was very comfortable with when I first started in business. So I would go to the general contractors that I had worked with in the interior design industry, and that was helpful for me to get started. But from there, it was really just a matter of asking for referrals and asking them who they work with, going online, taking a look at their website, that person's website, and what's nice about that is that you can name drop a lot in that industry. So if a contractor uses a specific specialist,
Yeah.
and you're talking to that specialist, you can say, yes, I was chatting with so-and-so and I went online. So it's almost like you've got a feeling of family within that industry once you start getting to know people.
So why didn't you stay in that niche?
I think I just needed a change. I
Okay.
think that because that industry is seasonal up here in Canada, I started moving into other areas. So,
Okay. People don't like to build in the wintertime. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, not so much.
Put on a coat. Come on.
That's right. Landscaping was a little, well, it was all about snow removal.
Did you ever have any landscaping clients?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah,
Now, landscaping clients are known as having small budgets. Is that true?
totally, totally
Would you
small.
recommend anyone go after landscaping as a micro niche to try to take over?
I would say that, there's better niches.
Not if you want to make money.
Yeah, and some of these are mom and pop shops, and they don't have the mindset that you want either. So then you got to get a lot of them in order to make some money at it.
And
So
and here's Catherine, tell me if you've ever ran into this. The mom and pop shops, the smaller businesses that have the smaller budgets expect the most results from their marketing and cause you the
totally,
most troubles. Is
totally,
that really?
yeah.
How is it that I hear that from everybody?
The best niche are the people who are so busy at their work that they don't have time to
Look at
worry
work
about
reports.
anything, and they just leave it to you. And then you've got, some creativity that you can put into it. They're not micromanaging you.
Right, right. And they have enough money to not freak out and micro analyze why they are paying you every single month.
Exactly.
So is there any on this list that you could say, you know what, that might not be bad to go into?
Air
I've seen
conditioning and heat.
people. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say air conditioning, heating and air conditioning is big no matter where you are.
HVAC.
Um, yeah,
Absolutely. And I know agencies making a tremendous killing on HVAC. And sorry, Catherine, let me just mention on this. I know companies, if you want a micro niche to target, guys, and you should pay attention to what I'm about ready to say. One of the if you're thinking about going into the home contractor space, it's not a bad idea to focus on a micro niche to get your foot in the door and expand from. But talking about HVAC, if you break that down even further, there's a lot of companies that only clean your ducts. And then if you want to go micro niche even further, there's an explosion of companies now that only clean your dryer vent, believe it or not. And they are making a lot of money. So yeah, that's going down the rabbit hole. Any of the other ones on this list, Catherine?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that idea, there's a lot of people on this list. For example, painters, general contractors might be a good example of that, that are so busy. I spoke to one over the weekend, and they're so busy, they don't even want a website up because they can't handle any more work. This is not the niche you want to go into, is when they're like that. But anybody else on here?
Let's see. I know people that have specialized in locksmiths.
Yeah.
They didn't really stand out to me. Pest control is interesting, but again, the people that I saw specialize in pest control that did really well, it was commercial pest control that they targeted. So if you are thinking about going into pest control, and you want to look for the pest control companies that have commercial services, because those are the ones that make a lot of money. And they also get contracts and they have reoccurring revenue on that, and that is good money. But that's the trick to pest control. Pools and spas, talk about seasonal. Plumbers, I've seen people going after plumbers. A lot of small one-man show plumbers.
Mm.
I've seen someone before with over 100 carpet cleaning clients, and they're the mobile carpet cleaning guys that just a lot of freelancers. They charge them a small amount of money, but I would say on this list, HVAC really stands out to me.
Yeah.
Really.
Me too.
So scrolling down from here, education. Now, we had a gentleman before, and I had a gentleman before, it was a long time ago, but specialized in preschools. So why preschools? Well, for the education that starts before the public education, it's all cash out of pocket, right? For the most part. And it can be good money. So for preschools and it's not just preschools. There's another name for it, but that was a fantastic niche. He actually had a decent budget. It was about actually not a real good budget. Probably average 700 a month retail budget. Catering, I'd be a bit aware of. Disc jockeys, I would never touch. You could. Florists, I've had a lot of people bring up florists to me. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's usually females and they like flowers. No offense, Catherine, I love flowers too. But the problem is that there's not a lot of profit in an individual flower transaction. Limousine rentals, I've seen people specialize in. So that seemed to be a good niche to go after. Personal chefs, no. Weddings, photographers, not so much. On the financial sector, I've only seen people go into the financial sector if they came from the financial sector. It's one of those things that you want to have a background in to be able to talk to them about. But for the people that came from the finance industry, I usually saw them specializing in it. And then health and beauty. So skipping along here, Catherine, what brought you to target the health industry? You've got HIPAA compliance, and you've got unique difficulties that are challenges for some of the health industries. So why did you target them?
Well, they were easy because I started out with a plastic surgeon, and this is a gentleman who also had a medical spa that was attached. So I really got my feet wet in the industry by promoting him and also promoting his medical spa. But it's also a very small niche in that everybody knows everybody. So once the word gets out, then one referral leads to another referral, etc. And that's how I got started.
So out of this list, is there any that stands out to you as if you're going to focus just on one niche, maybe a micro niche to go after?
Well, cosmetic surgery, but that is kind of the obvious one, and there's a lot of
Right,
people going after them.
right.
Chiropractors, they really, until they get it well established, are struggling to get clients, and they need a constant flow. So if you're good at lead generation, then chiropractors are great.
Yeah, I'm in the health industry. I think one of the reasons why cosmetic surgery is popular is because um, it's cosmetic. Typically, it's not going to be covered by insurance, which means it's a cash transaction, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the lead generation barrier to being like, oh, I brought you all these leads, but you were not able to convert them. With cosmetic surgery, it's cash. Whereas with something like chiropractors, you get the insurance company involved and you got to process it and see if you can get a claim to go through. There's a lot more complications there. Also, I think that's one of the reasons why the dental industry is popular, because a good amount of people do not have dental insurance and it's a quick transaction. And then there's day spas as well. So you target day spas a bit. I've seen a lot of people targeting day spas. Can you talk a little bit about that, Catherine?
Yeah, targeting day spas, it's a niche that if you're well versed in the lingo, you'll do very well. But I have to say that it's also very labor intensive. I was creating a newsletter once a month or sometimes every few weeks with specials. You really have to be fully engaged in that client in order to generate new activity, new business. So you can have the newsletters, you got the social media part of it. You need to be pretty much on site so that you're building a feeling of people joining an exclusive club in order to be going to that particular spa to create some loyalty and a sense of family.
Right.
Um, it is labor intensive when it comes to comparing it to other niches.
Have you ever targeted attorneys or dealt with them? And for that matter, anyone else that wants to give a shout out in chat? Let's
I
let's spend a little bit of time talking about attorneys. So, Catherine, you've had an attorney client before?
Yes, yeah, I just finished an attorney website, and it was easy. Now, getting these people to blog or do anything like that is another challenge. I saw on an earlier list that it was really important with lawyers to include a blog. Well, accountants and lawyers are so busy that typically they don't do that sort of thing. So it can fall into disarray. Your SEO can grind to a halt if you rely on blogging to move it forward. That's what I found.
Yeah, for me, whenever I talk to agencies, for the agencies that happen across a law firm or an attorney here and or there and pick them up as a client, I hear quite a bit of complaints dealing with them as a client. They're difficult, whatever. However, the people that target attorneys and law firms as a niche that they solely focus on, they like it. And I think it's just probably like anything else. They probably chose the niche because they understood it, they can network in with it, and they deal with that personality profile better. I will say that for the attorneys, the most popular type of niche to focus on within the attorney or lawyer sector is personal injury. That
Mm-hmm.
is the most common one that I see. And I suppose that's because it's really that profitable and they're really dependent on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, let me add, Catherine, I think when it comes to content, especially for lawyers, In my past experience, what we did is to come up with a content calendar or content editorial calendar where we inform our, lawyer clients to prepare like a 3 month worth of blog so that at least before the SEO campaign gets started, they get an idea that they need to have a content in place, even though it's gonna take them around 3 months to do so. So, yeah,
So getting
working
the
with
content
lawyers.
approved ahead of time. Justin, just heads up, your mic's cutting off. People probably don't understand what you're saying. But I'll
Oh,
summarize that for everyone. Yeah, attorneys, if you have to have quite a bit of content creation done for them, clearly they're going to be one of the most picky because by law, there's certain things that they're very strict about what you can and cannot say, and for good reason. But, you can just pass over the content for approval and change it, and people that are used to dealing with it, it's a learning curve. You learn what you can and cannot say, and it's an editorial level, and you'll catch things. And really, if you're focused on that, specialized on attorneys, you'll get used to it, and it's no big deal. It says Gabriel. Gabriel, let me know if you're interested in talking a little bit about, Gabriel, do you target attorneys specifically? Let me see if I can bring Gabriel on. And Gabriel, you're unmuted.
Hello?
Hey, Gabriel, so you target law firms, is that right?
Yeah, I actually have an immigration attorney, and my point was that I have to be very careful in the content that I write because it's a very very tricky thing. So like you say, you have to be very engaged, and I've become almost an expert in immigration law because I have to publish all these
Wow.
different type of things, and I have to be very very careful with her. And yes, she's a pain in the ass, by the way.
So do you just focus on immigration law, or you're just talking about that particular client?
No, that's just that particular client, but I have been thinking about just targeting a certain type of industry, just sticking to one, but sometimes I find it more profitable, at least maybe just for me or just my area, is if I have a couple of, just I have from a, from a painter to a lawyer to a salon. So I just find it it's just easier for me that way. It's because of my area. I guess I don't know. It's been working for me that way, but I have given some thought about maybe just sticking to one particular niche. But yes, but this lawyer, they are very tough, and again, you just have to be careful, and like you guys say, you do have to be very aware and engaged in what you do.
Thanks, Gabriel, appreciate it. And
Thank you.
then miscellaneous, hey, this is a decent niche to go after that I very rarely hear anyone talk about: jewelry stores. Now, it's probably been, let's see. Oh boy, how long has it been? 5 years since I've really dove into the jewelry store niche and how agencies are doing with it. But the last pulse I took on it was really good. I don't know how that's changed over the last 5 years with everything digital, but a lot of people still want to buy jewelry in person because, they're worried that maybe it's fake online or this or that. And jewelry stores are a really good target because why? Whenever they convert one particular lead, it could be worth $1,000 profit to them. So jewelry stores can make a lot of money. A lot of them have a lot of money, and they're brick and mortar. They're a local client. And I also want to point out, if for me, when it comes to picking a niche, I really encourage people to pick a niche that you enjoy. I do think that it makes a difference. And I also like niches that are more marketable. For example, can anyone give me a shout out on a niche that is not very marketable? And while you think about what's not marketable, Blaine, I'm sure you can think of a niche that's not marketable. Jewelry is marketable. Why? Come on. People like seeing pictures of jewelry on social media. If they see a big ring on social media on someone's finger or whatever, some celebrity got a ring, whatever, oh my gosh, it's so social. Could a jewelry store have a really active social media account and following where they talk about, celebrities on what jewelry they have and jewelry fashion and have people liking it and sharing it? Absolutely. Marketable, very socially capable of being marketed, which means their ads are going to have an easier way of getting clicks. That's not going to be very easy for a plumber. I don't care what a plumber posts. I doubt they're going to be able to get my attention. And if it is on Facebook, I'm probably going to, not want to see whatever's on my timeline from them and make sure it's removed quickly. Another niche that's not very marketable. Yeah. Well, Brian, good point. Funeral homes. Yeah, that's a hard one, right? I have ran across one agency before that specifically marketed funeral homes, but it's hard to market on social media or with paid ads. That's a difficult one. Gabriel says wheelchair van dealers. Okay. Dave says blue whale barnacle removal. I wonder if there's businesses that actually do that. Okay. So where was I on this? So jewelry stores. Yeah, I recommend that. In terms of karate, I've seen agencies that specifically focus on martial arts, MMA training schools. A lot of those struggle. It's not a big ticket item. I personally would not go after it. Pet groomers, yeah, I wouldn't go after it. You could. Tattoo shops, well, if it really interests you, I probably wouldn't. Veterinarians is a really, really good target market. Has anyone ever gone after veterinarians? It is a very good target market. We're talking about a business that has a high transaction value. There's not insurance holding up transactions, and they have other products that they sell as well. Some veterinarians want you to also help them out with some e-commerce marketing because they sell a lot of products, and then they have high dollar services as well. And also, would a veterinarian be marketable? Could you market a veterinarian on social media? Could you get a following for them on social media? Absolutely, 100%. Ever seen the pictures of the dogs before and after they brought in a homeless dog or whatever, and they shaved it, and oh, look at how brand new and shiny he is now after we pumped him full of a bunch of fluids, food, and gave him a shave, and it gets like 1 million views. Come on, that's a veterinarian that posted that. Some of these, so they're very socially marketable. Everyone loves veterinarians, and everyone that has a dog is willing to do anything for their dog, which means pay a lot of money, get them health checkups. Some people take better care of their dogs and their health than they do themselves. So for me, I am a ginormous fan of veterinarians as a target niche, and not enough people are going after them. Is it hard to get a hold of the decision maker of a veterinarian? Not really. Not really. Are veterinarians nice people to deal with? Yeah. Do veterinarians make a lot of money? Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. So I think one of the least talked about niches that I would personally like to target would be veterinarians. Out of all if you lob that into the health niche, I'd go after veterinarians above cosmetic surgeons, above dentists, above everything else in the health niche. I would go after veterinarians. That's just, there's less competition, and you don't have as strict of compliancy guidelines with client records and everything else. It's mainly cash transactions and is very marketable. Okay, veterinarians. Professional services. Well, accountants and CPAs, that's a lot of that is seasonal, right? I've definitely seen people target accountants and CPAs as a niche to go after. It's usually people that come from an accounting background. That's usually who targets accountants, and it makes sense to me as well. Otherwise, would I go after accountants and CPAs? I've seen some interesting strategic partnerships with accountants, because accountants also are B2B lead generation, right? Which you are also B2B lead generation for your clients. So I have seen agencies who go after CPAs that also have a profit sharing agreement, that if the CPA refers their business clients to them for marketing, that they will give them a percentage of it and they get some clients from that. But I've never seen anyone grow and have it flourish off of that, so I won't expand on that, but I have seen that. Real estate. Justin mentioned real estate earlier. Personally, I'm not a fan of going after realtors because, and here's why. How many of you know a real estate agent? Does anyone know a real estate agent? And it's not something like 1 in 10 people on the face of the United States or on this planet is a real estate agent? It's like, either you're an Uber driver or you're a real estate agent. Everybody's a real estate agent. And I like the idea behind it. I mean, but most real estate agents do or do not make money. Do not make much money at all. And so that's the problem. Now, if you're going to go after like a real estate companies that have a brick and mortar and they're the ones that are contracting or hiring these real estate agents, that's different. And again, if real estate's your background and that's what you're comfortable with and you've networked into that for whatever reason and you want to get into it, then do it. It makes sense to me. Absolutely. I wouldn't target if I don't have a background in that industry, though. Travel. Oh, wow. Travel. How many of you got into starting a digital marketing agency because you have the vision of living the laptop lifestyle? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Work from your laptop, travel around the world to luxurious destinations, work from the beach, and run a digital marketing agency. How many of you have a vision of doing this? Anybody? Is that anybody's goal that's on this line? Don't be shy. I'm not going to make fun of you. It's possible. I know people that do it. Nobody? Brian says not anymore. Brian, I would love to know why not anymore. Is it because you realize that it's not a reality? I hate to say that, but Catherine said, I used to have that vision. Catherine, are you still audible?
Yes.
What happened to your vision?
I did this. It was a very short stint in my business. I was in Paris, I was in Italy, I was down in Spain, and the time difference, the time zones were pretty exhausting to keep up with if you actually are there for both fun and pleasure and working as well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being up till 3 o'clock in the morning working with my team back here to get things done, even though I was on the road. It's a it sounds really good. I'd love to know how people do it.
Well, one way to do it is to target a niche that has to do with what's going to enable you to travel. So I was just, I had a meeting with an agency, a one-man show, but he targeted resorts and he got free stays. And once he got them as clients, he could go there when he wanted to. And international resorts in some countries are easier to target. And for example, a big resorts like, for example, in Canada or the United States is going to be hard to target. Why? Because they probably have buku money and there's a good chance they have an in-house marketing director. But if you're into traveling the world, there's a lot of countries where they don't have specialists as much. Like, for example, foreign countries that are not native English speaking, but their target market is native English speaking. What do I mean? I mean, like, for example, resorts in Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, string of other countries, but their target market may be to get people to fly out from the United States or the UK or Australia or Canada, and they need someone to bridge that gap, and they don't understand their target market really well. Would they need to hire someone outside of their own country per se and be really excited to network with someone that would fly over there and whatever? Yeah, so I talked with a guy that does that, and he was living it, but he was in that niche, and it was very good. He was one of the few people I've ever spoken to that had the vision of making that happen and made it happen. But he didn't make it happen by having clients and being able to manage them remotely on the beach, because like Brian said, maybe that's not quite a reality. Could be, but it's not as easy as you think it is. He made it a reality because his target market allowed him to go there, and they happen to be the resort. And he goes around from place to place to place. And that was a really smart way to do it.
Paul, I know this is easier in Canada than probably the US, but I have a friend who's built a great business just targeting the resorts in Cuba who are really looking for more tourism. They rely on it. But so he gets to go there maybe 6 times a year. He does
Really?
stuff for them. Yeah. Yeah, he loves it.
I think that, hey, this is a tip to any of you guys that are out there, okay? And then we'll wrap up this conversation and try to be more professional with it. But hey, if you are ever at a resort or somewhere and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this place, be proactive. Go ask if you can market for them or even consult for them, maybe even for free, and in exchange they would give you whatever privileges that are there. Why not? And if it works one time, maybe do it again and get some money. But even if you just had a network of places that you can vacation to for free whenever you wanted, be pretty cool. And I've seen people do that from time to time. I've actually tried to do that on one particular occasion. It was in the middle of nowhere in a remote country, and I couldn't get a hold of whoever owned the place, but it was a cool idea. Okay, so let's get this opened up to general feedback on. Oh, okay, Blaine, you're asking for this link on niches. Catherine, you said that you're maybe open to evaluating another niche. What are your thoughts, and why would you be open to evaluating another niche? Is it a time for a change? Are you not happy with the progress you're making with your particular niches?
Yeah, I sit in a very competitive niche, and I think the micro niches that you were mentioning are of interest to me. I think there's a huge advantage to opening up your mind to, I call it, the dentist and the health professionals to be sort of a glamour niche. But, some of these other businesses really need us. And you're not banging down the door or banging away competitors all the time, right? So it's a little less stressful. And I'm open to looking at something like that to specialize in.
It makes sense to me. Whenever, and anyone else, if you can give a shout out on niches that you're thinking about. Listen, I speak to marketing agencies for a living, and I've been doing this for a decade. A lot of people make it or break it from the business plan get-go. And I can't tell you enough. Your agency is made or broken from the business plan get-go. And the business plan should include who's your target market. And what I've come to learn is that in my earlier years in consulting marketing agencies, it was all about the data. It was all about the business model based on data. And what do I mean by that? I mean the whole data and typical coaching based on, well, if you choose a target market, the cost per, the value per customer acquisition is this, and you generate them X amount of leads, and you can make this amount of profit off of them, then based on this chart and flow and ease of getting access to decision maker, you will be worth this amount of money in this point of time, and these are the data points, and this is how the math adds up. So just do that, and you'll make it. And how many people had that math add up to them in a business plan and made it happen? It was rare. So now I weigh with more importance, is it something you want to do? Because what I've definitely realized is that oftentimes the success or not of a marketing agency is based more on, are you putting the work in, and are you willing to, and you know, and what really impacts that is, do you enjoy what you're doing? And I completely underestimated that for a long time. But so I think one of the luxuries of choosing a niche is being able to not only specialize and understand the niche more, but also to choose a niche that you enjoy. And look, maybe you'll say, well, it makes less money than more. Yeah, but if you grow it, you grow it. And one of the other biggest benefits of a niche is, listen, if you have been in the marketing industry for long enough, you're going to come to find out how hard it is to make a business money. And I don't even necessarily mean that this attributes to the performance of particular services, but a lot of things that attributes to whether or not you make a business money has to do with what? Are they tracking their leads? Do they have a CRM system? Are their prices too high? Who's answering their phones? How do you track their leads? And based on their industry, how much can they afford to pay for a customer acquisition? And will that translate into an ROI foundation of a good paid advertising campaign that's supplemented with SEO services, etc.? It's hard enough to make any business money, let alone diversify and say, I can make any business in any business category money as a marketing agency. Okay, well, you try that. It's difficult, not impossible, but it's difficult. But it's a lot easier to figure out one niche than it is to figure out 20. This is just my 2 cents on it. Aside from that, in regards to the recordings asked by Keith, hey, inside the dashboard, underneath pre-sale, if you go to Marketing Library, you will find the webinars loaded in here. Not necessarily in sequential order, but you'll see all the webinars that we have had to date. And yes, this one will be loaded in. I'm pretty sure they're loaded in within a week. If not, you can always ask support for it. And between now and then, if you want to be able to reach out to me and have any questions about niches, my email address is paul@ebrands.com. I'm happy to field any questions that you may have. And so hopefully this steers you in the right direction. And I'll go ahead and wrap it up, guys. So otherwise, we will see everybody in 2 weeks on the next VIP webinar. And until then, hopefully you have some time to think about if you want to target a niche. And again, you don't have to do it exclusively, but maybe you model certain marketing campaigns at a time towards a niche until you figure out what really works for you. And I'm just wrapping up final questions. Okay, shout out to KC. Absolutely happy to do a phone call. And again, if you guys are wanting to have a meeting with me, you're always welcome to email me to schedule that. All right, special thanks to Catherine for being on again and talking, as well as Gabriel and sharing some advice and information. And we'll be sending out an email once we determine the topic matter of the next webinar in 2 weeks. But, well, and does anyone want to give a shout out on the next topic matter you'd like me to cover? That might be a good way to wrap this up. And Catherine, if you're still on the line, is there a topic matter you would like to see us cover 2 weeks from today? Any thoughts? Blaine says lead capture. Joe says best foot in the door. Okay. I believe I have permission to show a, oh boy. Yeah, well, yeah, I was told that I would be able to demo then in 2 weeks a new lead generation tool that will help you to consult local businesses on their best SEO campaign by the next webinar. I should be able to do that. So if you wanted to go over more lead generation strategies for digital agencies, and I can demo the release of this new tool by agency platform, that's something we can go over. Okay, thanks everyone. Lead gen, it is. That's the votes that I'm getting. So we'll see all of you in 2 weeks from today. Until then, best luck with your agency. Take care, everyone. Bye.